Imagine that you're in a field of clover, green clover, and as you look closely at some of the leaves of the clover, there are little green beetles all over them. These green beetles are poisonous. Predators know not to eat green poisonous beetles because they're green beetles and they're poisonous, and they learn this quickly by stomach aches. And so these green poisonous beetles thrive in the clover field. But let's also say that there's another plant in the clover field that supports a similar beetle that isn't poisonous. And so this second beetle, even though it isn't poisonous, it starts to take on the exact same appearance as the poisonous beetle. And this is simply because if the beetle were red, for example, predators would know that red beetles aren't poisonous, and they would eat the red beetles in preference to the green beetles. And so natural selection works over time, and pretty soon the non-poisonous beetles are also green. And so what we have is a mimic. And this mimic is not poisonous, but the mimicry, or rather the appearance of being poisonous, the suggestion that this beetle is also poisonous, is just as effective as the poison itself. Now, let's extend this idea out further. Imagine that it's not just for some simple trait of appearance, like in the case with the green beetles, but what if this also worked on other traits that were a bit more abstract, which it does. In this case, I'm taking it to extremis, and I'm going to argue that consciousness is a similar phenomenon. We are selected to experience reality in technicolor. A creature that doesn't experience reality as though it's real and urgent isn't going to make it very far, because it's just not going to be concerned with reality, since it doesn't feel real, and it's just going to walk right out in front of predators to be eaten. There's no urgency to its existence, no reason to go on. Consciousness, although it feels so real, is just a mimicry. We're not really conscious. We are, by definition, just simply because to be aware enough to assert that one has consciousness is proof enough that one is conscious. But it's not capital T consciousness, insofar as if it were real consciousness, it would be omnidirectional, ever-present, eternal. It wouldn't cease. That's what consciousness would be. In fact, what we have is a seemingly conscious experience that is of brief duration. It blinks and then it goes away. This experience of having finite consciousness is just as real as the real counterpart would be. It just doesn't last as long. Mimicry through selection did such a bang-up job of providing us with a convincing apprehension of reality. It feels so real that it is real, but it doesn't last. And so our conscious experience is a mimic. It's a green shell that's just as effective as poison. When I say capital T consciousness, I mean to make reference to the ultimate truth of a conscious experience that would cover all aspects of reality and internalize every conceivable state, condition, and aspect of the reality in which it operates. Now, of course, such an infinite state is probably not possible in this space-time thing that we're in. And so, by mathematical restriction, maybe all we can ever experience is this finite, temporary two-dimensional sort of slice of conscious experience. But it is possible that such a thing could lend itself to a bigger picture. It could contribute to an emergent property that would be a larger picture, a higher level of order. I actually wrote a book on the subject, but it's been in an unfinished state for a decade. Tough problems. They're hard things to consider. When you think about any subject for long enough, you end up coming to hit a wall, a paradox. It's just the nature of our finite experience, right? Our finite brains. Something to think about.